Hi, I'm Bob Dixon. Welcome to the Leader's Edge Hot Takes edition of the Five Eagles Insight Podcast. For over 3 decades, I served in the military as an engineer and as a strategist, and I learned a few things about leadership. We know that it goes beyond theory. It's about real-world application. So in this series, sponsored by Five Eagles Leadership, we feature industry leaders and share their leadership journeys with you. My mission's simple. It's to help you become the best leader you can be. Now, if that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to be considered as a guest in upcoming episodes, please go to 5eaglesleadership.com/interview and apply today. Now, let's get started.
Welcome back to the Leader's Edge podcast. I'm Marisa McClure, and joining me today is Chazidy Robinson from Cincinnati, Ohio. Chazidy is the founder of SOAR 4031 Foundation. Welcome, Chazidy. We're excited to have you here today.
Hi, thank you. I'm very, very pleased to be here.
All right, great. So we are going to dive right into some questions. To get us started, give us a brief overview of your business and why you got into it.
Yeah, so SOAR 4031 Foundation was formerly, I've changed my name like twice over the 10 years that I have been operating in the nonprofit sector, because we have evolved so many ways in how we help people who have had the incarceration experience in their families. And so we have evolved to SOAR 4031 Foundation because we've grown so much over the years. And we focus on the mental health of those who have been through the incarceration process or supported someone in it, or they have worked in the field of incarceration and what that looks like. And our main focus is their mental health and getting post-incarceration syndrome ruled as a disorder. And so we're just trying to find a lot of innovative ways to help people overcome the psychological effects of incarceration.
Yeah, that's such important work, and I really appreciate that there are people like you out there doing that work. Why did you get into this work?
I got into this work because I met my then husband in 2016. He was serving a 9.5-year sentence in one of the Supermax facilities in Ohio. I had not been affected by incarceration or impacted in a way that it was right at my back door. And I had no idea that people were encountering situations such as prison and the everyday, day-to-day of how it works. I had no idea that it was that way. Mm-hmm. And so I just really kind of seen what I felt was a problem, and I wanted to be a part of the solution.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so what would you say is the biggest problem that you see, and how are you trying to solve that for yourself or for the clients that you're working with?
Yeah, so I think the biggest problem that I see first is there's really no accountability when it comes to the correctional system. And without accountability, then you can't really address the problem and the issues that are at hand. And so to say that people aren't experiencing the things that they are experiencing, but they're leaving from a place that has the word rehabilitation in it, but they're leaving with a lot of trauma, is the first thing that I've recognized, that we really have to take accountability for what's happening in the correctional system, and not just with people who are housed there, but people who work there, people who are in the environment every day, and their families as well. And so when we look at this in a 360 view and the overall psychological effect that it does to millions of people, and really just hold accountability for what is happening, I think that then we could really forge along and create a broader solution instead of this small solution. Because even though the work that I'm doing is very large, and it is making an impact. It's only a drop in the bigger bucket of
Mm.
what we need to do to really help people.
Yeah, and you're really focused mostly in the state of Ohio, is that correct?
No, we are national. So
Great.
we are all over the country. We're just based in Ohio.
Okay, great. So that's kind of where you got started with it, and then it's grown from there.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, and it is a challenging environment, and I actually really appreciate that you're kind of acknowledging that it's a challenging environment on both sides, right? Obviously, it's challenging for the people who are incarcerated, but it is also challenging for the corrections officers that are working on staff. And I will say, having worked in corrections in the military, I was very aware. We would do tours of other facilities. We would do conferences where we met with staffs from other facilities. As a military, a DoD, Department of Defense facility, we had resources that were well above and beyond the standard, state, local, or even at the federal level, um, that we would see out in the community. We had a much lower, staff to prisoner ratio, and just the programming that we could offer, because we had much more, we were much more, well resourced. And so I just saw firsthand how challenging some of those environments were. So I just really appreciate that you are out there trying to advocate for folks that are going through that, because it is an extremely challenging experience. So who are your, ideal clients? Who are you typically working with, and what kind of outcomes they expect from working with you?
Yeah, so our target audience now, so right now, so for the last 5 years, we have been conducting a research study with the University of Cincinnati School of Medicine around post-incarceration syndrome. And for me, I just didn't want it to be, a study. We're going to test some subjects and then we're going to move on. I wanted to be very innovative, and I wanted to really expand on how we could use that data and not wait for somebody else to look at it and say, oh, they're onto something. Let's do something with this. I wanted to create tools in real time as we were gathering data on how we could really help people, right? And so what we have found in the last 2 years is that if we could grab people a year to 1 to 2 years before their sentence ends, as well as their support system, and kind of give them some sort of stability as well as accountability to be able to move forward to what freedom looks like, to move forward to what sustainability on the outside looks like, and to help their families. Because, as you may know, incarceration and the burden of it and the financial burden lays on the families.
So who would you say is your ideal client? Who are you working with, and what are some of the outcomes they can expect when they're working with you?
Yeah, so our target for now, because through the research study, it's in 3 phases. And so we're in phase 1. And so our targets are those that are incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, and their families, or whoever their support system is. And so ideally, we like to touch base with them 1 to 2 years before their release, and offer not just services to those who are incarcerated, but we also offer wraparound services like case management and things of that sort for families while they are going through the experience. And the cool thing about doing the research study is the survey that we have. We've made it an assessment, and so that assessment can be taken, and when we take that assessment, we can tell them what level of post-incarceration syndrome that they have. We can also create a communication plan for not only those that are coming home, but also their families. And what that does is it just basically says, hey, these are the things that I'm dealing with. This is what triggers me. This is how I can communicate with you, because prison and the free world are two different worlds. They're two different spaces. And the behaviors that are learned or coping mechanisms that are in prison will seem very rare, not rare, but they will seem very abnormal to people who have never been in that setting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, behaviors that people may display once they come home to their family who may be expecting their son who went away at 16 and now he's 35. They only see that 16-year-old boy that went. They don't see the new person that's coming home. And the person that's coming home, within an instant, their life changes within the matter of hours.
Right.
And so the environments will swiftly shift for both sides. And so we teach you how to acclimate. And the first 90 days is so critical. And so we like to just be a part of their lives at least 1 to 2 years, and specifically the first 90 days once they come home to eliminate that recidivism rate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so important because, you want to set them up for success. And it is a really tough transition. The world has continued to move forward. Technology's changed. Processes have changed out in the free world, and they don't know what to expect. And it's really tough to integrate back into families, like you said. It's great that you're really looking at it, really starting to prepare well before that day comes so that they're set up for success, to not, repeat and to help the family too, because it is really hard for them as well. Because they don't understand what that person has just experienced for however long they were incarcerated, and that can be a really difficult transition as well. So yeah, that's awesome that's your approach. I think that's great. What is it that makes you unique and your foundation unique in how you support?
Yeah, I think the thing that makes us unique is that we are creating a lane that's not there, right? You hear a lot about people going to prison, and you hear a lot about people coming home and reentry, but you don't hear a lot about the mental health space. And we are tackling the one thing that we feel is relatable to people, that is the answer to why they display the behaviors that they do, or why they go back abruptly. And so I think that what makes us unique is that we are bringing to the forefront that although yes, housing is important, jobs are important, and all those sustainability parts are important, but we want to talk about the thing that should be first, and that's stabilizing the mind to be able to do all of those things, right? I mean, could you really expect a person who has been incarcerated for 15 years to know how to get on public transportation, to fill out an application? Mentally, do you know how that would even psychologically make
Yeah.
a person feel? And
Yeah.
so we're attacking that part of it, that prepares them mentally for what is to come. And I think that's what sets us apart and what makes us unique.
Yeah, that just reminded me of an experience when I was working at the military prison. We had a woman who was being released. She'd been incarcerated for 10 plus years, and she had been in prison before 9/11 happened, and we were flying her home. When we released, because we were a Department of Defense facility, we would release to their home of record state. So she had to fly home, and we really spent a lot of time preparing her for what that experience would be like at the airport, because it was going to be night and day different from whatever she had experienced in the past. And it was very intimidating for her to think about, being unsure of what she's supposed to do, and being nervous as it is with the whole process. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right in trying to help with a lot of those different transitions. So yeah.
And even in that situation, getting on the plane, the thought of it, and then getting off in an airport where there's thousands of people moving, and you haven't been around that many people in a decade.
Yeah.
That is extremely, and I think these are things that I know. It's not that I think, these are the things that people don't think about
Yes.
when we're talking about the transition. And so we try to find those little intricate pieces that people have forgotten, because those little tiny details are the most important details to people living in these situations.
Yeah, I think definitely people would probably sort of take for granted that some of those simple, seemingly simple things are actually really challenging. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Okay, so where do you see your industry going in the next 5 to 10 years, and how are you staying on top of that?
Oh, yeah. We have so many amazing ideas. And right now, our biggest idea that we are pushing is we want to open PICS, which is the acronym for post incarceration syndrome. We want to open up PICS mental health clinics all over the country. And the idea is for right now is to do 90-day pop up clinics because that 90-day window when people first come home, we want to be that net. We want to be that fishing net that catches people at from the gate, the 90 days, and then their transition. And so we right now are petitioning different investors, different people in the space of psychology, therapists, because what we want to do is at these clinics, we want to offer people therapy. We want to offer them the case management piece, them and their families. We want to offer them support groups and whatever resources that they have while connecting with their local reentry groups to set them up for the sustainability part. And I feel like that these mental health clinics all over the country, because incarceration it affects 6 million people right now that's walking around in the United States. 6 million people.
Yeah.
And so we have a partnership with Parks Insurance where we can offer premium health insurance for this population of people, zero cost and zero copay. What that means is that these clinics will be sustainable through that. We will be able to get they will be able to get more therapy sessions and not have to wait so long on just being able to get into therapy, and they will be consistent. We are also training our therapists and whoever our clinical directors are in our centers on post-incarceration syndrome with a CEU or a education credit that will be available. So now we have relatable therapists because that's what we're hearing. I have a therapist, but they don't understand what I'm going through. And so through our data and through our conversations that we're having with people as they take our assessment, we're just developing these tools. And as you know, prison is $1 trillion industry. So we will have more work in the next 5 to 10 years until we really eliminate this problem and help people, on the psychological end.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds great. Okay. So this one's a little bit more kind of a personal question. What has been your biggest challenge or failure, and how has that helped shape how you do business?
Yes, I think my biggest challenge is just being in this space, being a woman who is fighting for something that I've never experienced and just trying to get people to understand that I get it because I was on the other side of being married to someone through it and what I face and the challenges that I face. And I think that I learned a long time ago that real leadership is learning how to be coachable and always willing to learn no matter how much you know. And that's what I've learned through all the processes of falling down and getting back up, making the mistakes. And even at 45, I'm still making mistakes and I'm still learning and being willing to learn. I've learned that too. I've learned that you have to be a willing vessel in every aspect because, I was just telling my daughter the other day, I was like, I've been 18, you haven't been 45, so you got a little living to do, right? But I also haven't been in a lot of places and spaces that a lot of people have. So I'm always willing to learn and understand, where people are coming from, where they have been, and where they're going. And that's how you grow. So that's my personal experience, along the way. And that's how I'm able just to keep moving along in the directions that I'm trying to go in.
Yeah, I love that. I agree with you 100%. I think we never stop learning and growing, or at least we shouldn't. we should never think that we've got it all figured out.
Yeah.
And I've got a few years on you, and I still don't have it all figured out. So I think, I think you're right. We're going to always continue to evolve and learn and grow. And it's great that you're open to that and kind of looking for those opportunities, because I think that really helps helps that process along, when you're receptive to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so what is the next area of growth for you or for your business? I know you talked about, trying some of the things that you're trying to accomplish in terms of setting up the pop-up clinics and things like that. Is there anything else that you want to highlight that you're trying to grow?
Oh yeah. So we have a workbook that will be coming out, a book along with a workbook that will be coming out this summer. We are in talks with folks about a virtual reality game that will allow you to see through the eyes of someone who has been in this experience and what it is. And we want this virtual reality game to be one of those things to where we want people who have never experienced the judicial system, the prison system, interactions with police. We want you to be a part of this game, and we're building focus group around it now. We're looking for people in the field to be able to help us produce it and release it, but we have the entire concept ready, and it is amazing. So that's something that we're looking forward to, because ideally we want to be able to touch all audiences. We don't want this just to be, just for people who have been to prison or affected by it. No, we want everyone to know that incarceration really is the psychological part of it is really a public health issue, and it affects you more than what you think you do, because when you're encountering just that grocery store clerk that's scanning your groceries, you don't know who that person might be. That may be somebody who's come home from incarceration after 20 years and they're struggling with being there and maintaining that job. Or it could be the wife of someone who just got off the phone with their husband or their son, and they just got bad news and they can't reach them inside of the facility, and mentally they're trying to separate the two. And so it's just our way of just introducing the world, just not this country, but the world, because prison is universal. I deal with people in prisons in the Philippines. I deal with people in prisons in South Africa. Prison is universal, and it speaks a universal language. And you gave me an amazing idea, because I didn't think about people who are incarcerated in the military. And so now that has sparked a light bulb in me to say, how do we touch all audiences? How do we touch everyone? Because here's the thing. PTSD, and you're in the military, right? Or you have a military affiliation. PTSD was a disorder specifically for people who came home from war. And so what we are trying to do is distinguish the difference. Yes, prison is a traumatic experience. It is a war zone at times, but it's not war. And we can't associate someone who's been to prison and someone who's been to war. That's like saying that, water and Gatorade taste the same. They're liquid, but they're very different, right?
Yeah, they're both trauma, but they're different trauma.
They're different traumas, and so we can't really diagnose someone that's been to prison with someone that's been to war. It's just a difference. And so what we're trying to do, and what we're trying to have people relate to, people have them understand is that yes, there's a correlation between the two, but how do we help you both effectively to where we're speaking to your specific trauma, and how do we help you through that? Yeah.
Yeah, tailoring the care to the needs of the individual, because everybody's had a different experience, and different things affect people in different ways.
Yes.
And we had quite a few prisoners that had diagnosed PTSD coming into the prison environment. So we dealt with some of those challenges along the way as well. So you're on target with that. So great. All right. A little bit of another kind of a funner question. If you could have lunch with anyone, dead or alive, who would you choose?
Oh my goodness. So I really thought about this question and I thought, who would it be? Like I thought about a celebrity. I thought about I thought about all these different people. Like, man, who could it be? It's like that one wish, and then you're just like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
But then I thought about it, and it would be my grandmother.
Oh, that's nice.
And I'm going to tell you why.
Yes, please.
My grandmother was a very resilient woman. She was a God-fearing woman. She was very resilient. But the one thing about my grandmother that a memory that stood out with me, a lady had done something really, really bad to her. And my grandmother never really spoke negatively of anyone. But we knew that this woman had wronged her in a very harmful, hurtful way. And I remember being in the car with her one day and it was pouring to rain. And my grandmother stopped and this lady was walking. And she stopped. She said, "Do you want a ride?" And I'm on the passenger side like, we giving her a ride? I'm thinking this, like, this is the lady that did this thing to you.
Oh.
And she said, "Do you want to ride?" And the woman was hesitant. She said, "Come on, I'll take you home. It's raining out. You don't need to walk in the rain." And that day, it really showed me what integrity was. And it showed me what forgiveness was. And I have seen a whole lot in the last decade that I have been advocating for people in this space. I've seen it, the good, the bad, the ugly. I've seen it from both sides. I've heard it all. And I just want to sit down with her and share with her those things and ask her about that day and ask her, where did she find the strength to just say, "Come on, I'll take you home." And to embody that when I am feeling like I don't want to do this anymore because you have wronged these people, and not get upset and be slow to anger and easier to speak. So I would really like to sit down with her and have that conversation. Yeah.
I think we could use a lot more people like your grandmother in our world today,
Yeah.
right? We need more of that. We need more of that forgiveness and that just humanity, right? Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so last question. What is the best way for people to contact you if they want to learn more about the work you're doing? Maybe they want to get involved. How can they reach out to you?
Yes, absolutely. So you can go to our website. It's Pix Israel, PICSISREAL.org. Please go to our website, explore everything that we're doing. And then if you want to reach me directly, please reach out to my email at Chazidy, CHAZIDY, at pixisreal.org.
All right. Well, I will vouch for your website. I checked it out before our talk today, and there's a lot of just really great information and stories. And I just want to tell you that I really admire what you're doing. I know that it's hard work, but it's so important to be out there advocating for people who have a hard time advocating for themselves. So
Yes, absolutely.
yeah,
Thank you.
great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, and good luck with your work moving forward.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Leader's Edge Hot Take Series. I hope you found today's insight meaningful, valuable, and that you're ready to put them into action. Now, if you enjoyed the episode and want to keep improving your leaderships, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I post new content every week, packed with strategies, tips, and real-life examples to help you lead with impact. And remember, great leadership isn't just about guiding others, it's about continuously growing yourself. If you'd like to be considered as a guest for upcoming episodes, please go to 5eaglesleadership.com/interview to apply today. Keep pushing, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next episode. Be awesome.